everyone, welcome to the show End-Day Vulnerabilities. Today we are focusing on hidden menace in the cybersecurity landscape, the End-Day Vulnerabilities. Joining me to dissect this critical topic is Ms. Rakhi, a renowned cybersecurity expert in the cybersecurity industry. Welcome Rakhi, welcome to the podcast Season 2 Episode 1.
Thanks for having me, Yash, in this show for your podcast, which is Season 2, Episode 1. I'm happy to discuss the end-day vulnerabilities and explore strategies for tackling the ongoing challenges.
Let's unpack this for our listeners. Unlike zero-day vulnerabilities, end-day vulnerabilities are known, right? Can you please explain the key difference between these two?
Sure, Yash. Let me explain the difference between the zero-day vulnerability and the end-day vulnerability, also known as the one-day vulnerability here. The zero-day vulnerability is unknown to the vendor, and thus there is no patch which is readily available in the market, and it is ready to patch to address this vulnerability that has been reported by many users. The zero-day vulnerability refers to the amount of the time the vendors have to address the flaw before the hackers can actually penetrate into the system. Coming to the end-day vulnerability, which is also known as the one-day vulnerability, are known vulnerabilities for which the patches are available, but it's only the difference between the time the patch is released and the time the systems have been patched, which is also known as the mean time period, which is normally between 60 days to 150 days. So that's the major difference between the zero-day vulnerability being more vulnerable than the end-day vulnerability.
So why are end-day vulnerabilities more often prevalent than zero-day attacks?
Good question, Yash. Let me just put few of my thoughts into it. The major reason that I could see here is because the end-day vulnerabilities are a gold mine for attackers. Because let me explain to you a bit more in detail, because the hard work has already been done. Right, the patches, the vulnerabilities already reported, the patches has not been installed as we had discussed it earlier. In certain cases, the active exploits may already been exist in the system or in the infrastructure or the environment that has already been in the production systems and are readily available from public domain also. Now, when I compare this with the zero-day vulnerabilities, which are time-consuming and expensive to find and also to exploit, that is the main reason why the usage of the zero-day vulnerability is now declining as compared to the end-day vulnerability. Now, while end-day poses a threat to any large network or any large organization, industrial users are at a especially high risk. The reason could be many, but I'll just point out the key reasons out here is the systems must always be available, right? There is no standardization in the processes that have been defined and the guidelines that have been defined and the procedures that are being deployed. They lack standardizations in many perspectives. The patches rarely propagate between the vendors and the shared codes, and also the extended lifetime, which is the main cause of these threats, be more penetrable into the market area or into the production systems. That's the reason why the end-day vulnerabilities are known as gold mines for the users.
That makes really sense. As we have seen that, as most in cyber attacks, the organizations are using unpatched tools and application. So the question arises over here, can you elaborate more on, the different types of end-day vulnerabilities?
Sure. Let me explain to you, with a real-life example. Let me illustrate a scenario with a real-life cases that could give you why is it a risk factor, right? So in the year 2016, December 2016 to be more precise, there was an attack that disrupted the operations of an Ukraine substation. Okay, and the reason why it disrupted the operations of the substation was because there was a denial of service attack, which actually the system was not patched because of a CVE 2015-5374, which leads to the denial of service attack. So this was something where we understand why is it important for the systems to be patched, why is it important for the administrator in the organization to be on a top of it to ensure that the critical patches or the security patches are immediately installed within a month of its release, so that we can avoid these downtimes in the environment and the production environment, to be more precise. Now, coming back to your question of end-day vulnerabilities, we can see that it can manifest in various forms. So I'll explain to you a bit more in detail upon, depending upon the nature of the software or the system which can get exploited. To name a few, there are some of the common types, but there could be many more. I'm just giving you a few examples out here. That it could be a buffer overflow, it could be cross-site scripting, it could be your authentication bypass, it could also be a denial of service attack, which we just saw with an example some time ago. It could be a part traversal, which is an issue. It could be an XML external entity injections. So basically, we need to take care of it when we are doing a vulnerability assessments of the system. So that becomes another key point, that not only patching but the technical vulnerability also plays a very key role in ensuring that the organization is safeguarded against the end-day exploit or the vulnerability that we realize. So these are just a few examples. Obviously, there are many types of the end-day vulnerabilities that are reported, and they also exist, right? So each vulnerability presents a unique risk, and it also requires a special mitigation, scenarios or a strategies to reduce the impact of it. So maybe we could say just patching or doing a vulnerability assessment for a system that help me in putting my system straight. I would not agree to that fact, because there are different risks with different impact, different probability. So the strategies depends upon the environment that we are in.
So we saw a trend in 2023 was a ransomware group called C10P, targeting a major file transfer services. Then they exploited this vulnerabilities that even a software vendor organization or companies weren't aware of, right? Which we called the zero-day vulnerabilities. In January, then they hit Quadra's Go Anywhere, impacting at least more than, I would say, 130 plus organizations. Then in May, they went after Progress Software's MOVEit, affecting a much larger scale, more than 2,500 organizations. So this attacks highlight the importance of staying vigilant and patching software promptly, even for secure systems like file transfer tools. So Raki, as we can see, unpatched vulnerabilities can create a serious impact. So could you please shed some light on where all are the other consequences of failing to address this end-day vulnerability?
Sure, Yash. As you rightly said, the consequences are severe, but I would also like to add on to it that it's not only the consequences, but the effects range from financial losses to reputational damage. So failing to address the end-day vulnerabilities can lead to a range of consequences beyond just the immediate risk of reputation. So there are some sort of repercussions that I would like to highlight here is leading to data breach. It could also lead to an unauthorized access, could lead to a data breach where all your sensitive, confidential, restricted data could be at stake. Financial losses, as we rightly said, that if my data is leaked to a competitor, definitely I would have a financial impact to my business, to my organization, to my services that I'm providing to the customer. It could be reputational damage or the goodwill loss. It could also be, at many places, the legal and regulatory compliances that could also lead to a major consequence, including the penalties and the fines that the organization has to face. It could also lead to operational damages. It could also be a theft of the intellectual property rights. If there's a data breach, if there's an unauthorized access, the IPR or the unique selling point of the organization can go to the competitor and could lead again back to your reputational loss, your goodwill loss, your financial loss that could impact my the business at large. It also could be a compromise of your entire infrastructure. So when you have a total operational standstill in case if something is wrong and my infrastructure or the production system doesn't function at the right time in the right way. So overall, if I have to talk about this, failing to address the end-day vulnerability can have reaching consequences that extend beyond the immediate security risk, financial risk, financial stability, reputational risk, your legal compliances risk, and public safety also. Right? It also underscores the importance of practicing the risk management and the robust cyber security practices to mitigate and make these systems effectively. So I would also like to say that today the key factor that we all miss when we are discussing about consequences, impact, probability is the awareness. Awareness is the key to ensure that I'll not say it will eliminate the risk in total, but definitely it can bring down the impact of the risk if my users are aware what I have to do, how I have to do, and what will be the impact if I do not do that. So that's what I feel that we can curtail the risk of endeavor.
Thanks for that explanation, Raki. Now let's dive deeper into some questions from our listeners.
Sure.
So, what are some communication strategies for informing stakeholders about the risk of NDA vulnerabilities?
A good question on communication, Yash. So effective communication, can eliminate or can help us to curtail the risk to a certain extent. So when I talk about effectively communicating the risk of NDA vulnerabilities to the various stakeholders, to our interested parties who could be internal interested parties or could be the external interested parties, is crucial for raising awareness and to gain their support for remediation activities and also for fostering a culture of cybersecurity within the organization, right? So here are some of the communication strategies which the organization can follow and inform the stakeholders about it. So this may not be a very comprehensive list, but at least on a higher level, what can we do and what is the best option that is available for us is the tailored messaging. At times I have seen the communication runs into pages. It doesn't tell me what I need to do. The crux of the entire communication is lost. So the key bullet points with a tailored communication helps us to have a quick support and a quick response and a quick update to the respective stakeholders. The message has to be clear and the language has to be accessible. If we write very jargon language, we wouldn't be able to communicate, or we wouldn't be able to put our messages straightforward as to what is the risk that is there, what is that we have encountered, what is the threats that we are facing, right? So the language has to be accessible so that the people understand it, even if the person is not from the same background. Then we can use various visual aids to explain to them what went wrong or what is that we are currently trying to do. We can explain to them the various risk scenarios along with the mitigation strategies that we would be using. Various engagement opportunities so that they are also a part of the entire system, right? Regular updates, which is sometimes very important that we get lost in mitigation of that entire activity, but the timely updates to the stakeholder is missing. So that plays a very key important role, that the stakeholder is updated on an hourly basis or on a 3 hours basis as to know what is there that is now coming to me. And the last very important is the training and the education, right? So after we have curtailed the risk, after we have eliminated the threat, the awareness plays a very key important role here, which is always the missing piece in any of the organization that we look at, right? So by adopting effective communication strategies, organizations can inform the stakeholders about the risk of the NDA vulnerabilities and mobilize support for proactive measures to mitigate the threats that we have foreseen, that the risk can be curtailed to what could be how we can lessen the impact of the risk and overall strengthen my cybersecurity posture. So communication and awareness are the key important factors here.
So my next question is, beyond patching, are there any other ways, that organization can mitigate, the risk associated with NDA vulnerabilities?
Certainly, yes, there are, which the organization at times do it as a backseat methodology, because anything that we need to mitigate comes with a cost, right? But never said that that patching is still a critical component to mitigate the risk which is associated with your NDA vulnerabilities. There are several additional strategies and best practices that the organization can follow and enhance their overall security posture. So I'll name a few. Again, this is not a big laundry list, but yes, the key critical ones that I would like to discuss out here is network segmentation, right? Many companies say that we are a small size organization and we have a flat network, which always leads to the risk coming at a very higher level, right? Then the least privilege access. The access control has to be on need to know basis, based on their job responsibility, based on the business requirements. Not that everybody becomes an admin of that particular environment, right? So the least privilege access is something very crucial that a company needs to follow and also regularly review those accesses. It's not that once I became an admin, I'm admin till the time I leave the organization, right? Then application whitelisting. Which is that I want and which is that I don't want. We need to have a very conscious decision on that, whether I need to whitelist this particular application what is the risk that is involved, what are the security measures that I need to take. So all those things have to be looked into. Then we need to also ensure that we perform a security patch testing, right? Many organizations, on my personal experience, when we have seen that they say, okay, this is a desktop system, so it just directly comes from the internet. I do not test the patches that is displayed on the desktop. That doesn't mean that my desktop cannot be vulnerable, right? So again, coming back to the same point, that if my desktop and my servers are in the same network segmentation, my entire network is at stake. My entire environment is at risk, right? So deploy IPS and IDS so that on timely basis we know what is that threat that is coming into my network. Develop and enhance your vulnerability penetration programs. Implement security configuration measurements. So as you would be aware about the risk of AIMS that has happened, the AIMS, the main vulnerability was that there was no minimum baseline configuration. The system was brought from the market, plugged it into the network, and it started working, right? But what is the requirement? What are the rules that I have to follow? What are the policies that I would implement on my network devices? That is something that is, we need to strictly follow that and adhere to those requirements. So your configuration management plays a very key role out here. Then develop and regularly test your incident response plan. So many organizations we see that incident management policy is defined. But as we do a regular business continuity testing, we also need to perform on a regular basis your incident response plan testing. What will my team do if a ransomware attack has happened? It could be a tabletop exercise, it could be a discussion exercise, a simulation exercise, right? Not necessary that we encounter an event and then we start working on it. Let's get prepared beforehand, which will help us to curtail the vulnerabilities of NDA at a level that my organization has a minimum downtime, right? So by implementing these complementary strategies in addition to the patching, organization can strengthen the defenses against the NDA vulnerabilities and also reduce the likelihood and impact of the successful attacks.
So, in your experience, Rakhi, what are some of the biggest challenges organization face in managing NDA vulnerabilities?
Yash, a good question. There are many, but I'll try to highlight the key pointers which the organization often encounter while having these significant challenges during the NDA vulnerabilities. As we discussed it earlier, the patch management, which plays a very key important role. A point that I would like to discuss here upon on the patch management is the prioritization of patches. Not necessary that all patches that has been deployed or that has been said, okay, these are the number of patches for this particular month. Not necessary we deploy all the patches. Let's prioritize the patches that are critical, that are severe, and then patch it across. The second very important point that we need to be aware about the challenges is the legacy systems. So many organizations still have Windows 7, Windows 10 running on their environment, which is end of life, end of support, right? We do not have any patches that have been coming even from the service or the vendor providers that we have. So those systems, do we actually need them in our environment? Or if we need them, how do we protect them? Could it be a standalone, or do we request some special services from the vendors to give us those patches because we have a dependency of some applications that are running? So that is the third point, which is very important, the dependency on the legacy systems. Then as your resource constraints, the competency of the resources handling the infrastructure is also plays a very key important role, right? Then the vendor facing timeline. Sometimes we need a patch on an urgent basis, but the vendor is not available or vendor is not able to give us those patches to be deployed in the environment on a timely basis. Compliance and regulatory also plays a very key important role here. And the most important factor that I would like to highlight here is the shadow IT and bring your own devices, right? So many a times we see organization allows the employee, you can work on your systems, you can get your system so that it's a comfort level. Cost cutting also plays a key role here. But when I say bring your own device, we also need to ensure that the minimum baseline security that we have defined for the organizational own asset needs to be deployed onto your personal devices also. With that, the company can give you permission for your BYOD, because that's a main challenge, that if my personal system is unpatched, if my personal system doesn't have a vulnerability assessment program, it could lead to a threat in the organization, right? So it's very essential for the organization to adopt proactive measures to strengthen their cybersecurity posture and mitigate the risk associated with the end-day vulnerabilities effectively.
So that was a very informative discussion.
Thanks.
So let's summarize, key takeaways of this end-day vulnerabilities. So, these are more often, prevalent than zero-day vulnerabilities because, they are already known and may have, patches available, but not all users, apply them promptly.
Absolutely. That's the reason they're goldmine for attackers.
Yeah, correct. So now end-day vulnerabilities, also pose significant risk to organization, including data breaches, financial losses, reputational damage, legal and regulatory consequences, operational disruption, as we discussed, IP theft, compromise of infrastructure.
Correct.
All these things are there, right? And organization also can mitigate, those risks associated with, end-day vulnerabilities by prioritizing patching, implementing network segmentation, following principle of least privilege access, using application whitelisting, providing user education and awareness, right? Conducting security, patch testing, deploying, intrusion detection or prevention system, deploying vulnerability, remediation policies, and implementing, security configuration management, and preparing for the incident response plans, right? So these are some ways where we can, mitigate, this sort of end-day vulnerabilities that we discussed, right?
Absolutely.
Overall, addressing the end-day vulnerability, requires, I would say, a proactive and a very smart approach to vulnerability management that incorporates people, processes, and technology to effectively identify, assess, prioritize, and remediate vulnerabilities by balancing business needs, resource constraints, and risk tolerance.
Absolutely, Yash. You actually pointed out rightly that the three triads, the people, process, and technology, plays a very key important role here. Because many a times we see that we only focus on process. We only focus on technology, but the key factor, which is you, the people, is always missed out. So yeah, that's very important point, Yash. Yes.
So end-day vulnerabilities, might not be flashiest cyber threats, but they pose a significant, risk that shouldn't be ignored.
Absolutely, Yash. You have hit the nail on the head, if I can, put it straight, right? So while a zero-day vulnerability often grabs the attention, right, due to its novelty and immediate threat potential, the end-day vulnerability represents a persistent and widespread risk that organization cannot tend to ignore, right? So it's essential for the organization to prioritize the patching and vulnerability management efforts to address the end-day vulnerabilities effectively. That plays a very key role here, right? So by staying vigilant, right, and investing in cybersecurity best practices and adopting a proactive approach to risk mitigation, organization can reduce the exposure of the risk of the end-day vulnerabilities and strengthen their overall cybersecurity posture. Ignoring the risk associated with the end-day vulnerabilities is not an option in today's threats landscape. So even if I say, okay, the patches come and I will do it after 2 months, I just cannot sit on the patch, right? So it could lead to a disaster and a big penalty with a damage of reputation and goodwill for the organization.
Thanks again, Raki, for sharing your expertise. If our viewers want to learn more about your work, right, where they can find you?
I'm available on LinkedIn with my username as Rakhi R. Wadhwani. I am available. You can contact me, message me, follow me, and connect with me on the same.
So this has been another episode of the end-day vulnerabilities. By staying informed and taking proactive steps, we can build stronger defenses against these persistent threats. Thanks for joining us today. Stay tuned for latest security breaches, governance, risk and compliance, and VM updates on our YouTube channel. Thank you.